What if the most powerful weapon you'll ever hold is already in your hands? What if your path to freedom, clarity, and inner strength doesn't require anything external at all? And what if the secret to a fulfilled life isn't something new, but something ancient you've simply forgotten? Take a moment, just a moment, and imagine this. The single most powerful force for a meaningful and fulfilled life isn't something you can go out and buy. It's not hidden in books, locked behind paywalls, or handed down by someone more qualified. No, it's already inside you. Waiting for you to notice it, nurture it, and ultimately master it. This idea isn't a motivational cliche. It's a truth grounded in one of the most enduring schools of thought in human history, Stoic philosophy. For centuries, it has empowered individuals, emperors, warriors, and ordinary people alike to live lives of depth, strength, and clarity. Stoicism teaches us that a truly fulfilling life doesn't come from applause, wealth, or recognition. It comes from mastering ourselves through wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are not just lofty ideals. They are solid anchors in a world full of noise and chaos. Because no matter what storms rage outside, no matter the confusion, betrayal, or loss, Stoicism reminds us that we have something unbreakable inside. A stillness, a clarity, a kind of inner compass that can't be shaken by external opinions or temporary emotions. True value, it says, lies not in how others see you, but in how firmly you stand by your principles. So this is not merely a journey of self-improvement. This is a return to your core, a realignment of your actions with your values, the ones you've always held, perhaps buried under years of doubt or distraction. Because the strength, it's always been yours. Now, if you're someone who's been craving clarity, if you've been searching for a way to step out of the fog and take back control, then stay with me. You're not here by accident. You're here because you're not like the majority. You're here because you're ready to walk a different path, a more conscious one. But just one thing, don't skip ahead. Watch this video all the way through. Because this wisdom won't just inspire you, it might just change how you see your entire life. We ended the last part with a powerful truth. Your worth is not determined by what happens to you, but by how you respond. And yet, many of us forget this, especially when we quietly accept less than we know we deserve. There are things we cannot control: the chaos, the disappointments, the unexpected turns of life. But even in the midst of that, there's always one thing within: our reach, our perception. How we interpret an event, how we judge a situation, how we choose to act, these remain ours. Always. And the moment we settle for less, in work, in love, in life, we're not just compromising. We're handing over that inner authority. We're letting circumstances define us, rather than standing firm in what we know to be true. Stoicism doesn't ignore this. It confronts it head on. It asks, does this situation align with my values? Is my reaction a reflection of who I really am, or of fear and doubt? If the answer is no, the Stoic response is not to spiral into regret. It is to return to strength. Because our power begins with awareness, knowing that while we can't change everything around us, we can always shift how we see it. And from that shift, transformation begins. Your worth has nothing to do with job titles, applause, or financial success. It's measured in how truthfully you live, how bravely you act, and how wisely you walk your path. This isn't about assigning blame. It's about rediscovering control. It's not pride that tells us not to settle. It's self-respect. It's not entitlement, it's clarity. When we choose to face life with resilience, we are not merely surviving another day. We are shaping our destiny, not as victims of fate, but as Stoics, intentional, grounded, and fully awake. Let's move on to the next subtle but critical mistake, one that quietly undermines our confidence from within. Dismissing your own achievements. Stoicism, with all its understanding of the human soul, doesn't teach us to boast or inflate our ego. But it does call on us to be honest, to recognize effort where effort was made, to appreciate virtue where virtue was shown. Because acknowledging your success isn't about arrogance. It's about honoring the invisible forces that made it happen: discipline, perseverance, clarity, and values. It's about respecting the work you've done and the path you've walked. Think of this. In Stoic thought, virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance form the very pillars of a meaningful life. Every victory, whether big or small, is a sign that you've embodied one or more of these traits. Maybe it was courage that helped you take a chance. Maybe it was wisdom that kept you grounded. Maybe temperance helped you say no when temptation knocked. And yet, how often do we brush it off, saying, "It was nothing," or "I just got lucky"? But was it really luck? Let's take a closer look at what truly lies behind those so-called lucky moments. We just explored how recognizing your accomplishments isn't vanity, it's truth. It's about acknowledging the virtues that brought your achievements to life. Now let's go one step further. What happens when you fail to honor those virtues? Because when we downplay our successes, we're not just minimizing the result. We're erasing the patience, discipline, and courage that helped us earn it. So how do we shift this habit to appreciate what we've done without falling into arrogance? Stoicism, as always, offers a balanced path. It doesn't encourage self-glorification, but it does call for honest self-reflection. It invites us to say, yes, I worked hard for this. Yes, it wasn't easy. And yes, this result reflects not just luck, but my effort, resilience, and values. Giving yourself credit isn't about boosting your ego. It's about honoring the truth. Take a moment right now. Think of something you've accomplished recently. It doesn't need to be big. It only needs to be real. Maybe you stuck to a difficult decision. Maybe you kept going when quitting felt easier. Now ask yourself, what virtues did I embody in that moment? Was it courage, wisdom, discipline, justice? Whatever it was, recognize it, not to impress anyone, not to boast, but as a quiet affirmation of your inner strength and character. When we stop needing validation from others and start seeing our success as the natural fruit of virtue in action, something shifts inside. We become more grounded, more aware, less reliant on praise, and more connected to who we truly are. This is how Stoicism reframes success. It's not about pretending you're humble when inside you feel proud. It's about appreciating your growth honestly, without shame or performance. And over time, this honest self-respect builds a deeper, more durable confidence, one that doesn't crumble in the absence of applause. Now let's turn to another trap many of us fall into, always putting others before ourselves. You know, the pattern. Skipping your morning run so you can prep breakfast for the family. Staying late at work to help a teammate even when your own deadlines are burning. Putting your dreams on hold because someone else needs you. It sounds noble, even heroic, and in moderation, it can be. But here's the paradox. When you consistently sacrifice your own well-being for others, it doesn't make you stronger. It drains you. It leads to burnout, quiet resentment, and eventually, a feeling of being lost, like you're pouring from a cup that's already empty. Stoicism doesn't preach cold detachment or selfishness. In fact, it strongly values service to others and the pursuit of virtue in community. But it also teaches a crucial truth. You cannot pour into others if you're running on empty. Self-care is not indulgence. It's responsibility. It's the soil from which your strength, clarity, and compassion grow. Only when you are centered, healthy, and grounded can you truly serve those around you in a meaningful, lasting way. Earlier, we explored the danger of constantly putting others first, and the Stoic reminder that caring for yourself is not selfishness, but a foundation for meaningful service. Now let's dive deeper into what that self-care truly looks like, and how Stoicism gives us a clear, practical path forward. To care for yourself fully, physically, mentally, and emotionally, requires clarity. Stoicism provides this through one of its most powerful teachings, the dichotomy of control. It reminds us that our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions, these are within our control. Our well-being, that's also within our control. But here's the catch. The well-being of others, even those we love most, isn't something we can completely manage or guarantee. So what can we do? We prepare ourselves. We strengthen our own foundation. Because when you are rested, healthy, and emotionally grounded, you become more than just available. You become present. You become calm, compassionate, and capable of offering real support without draining yourself in the process. Think about it. When you're exhausted, every request feels like a burden. Every conversation becomes heavier. But when you've taken care of your own needs, even in small ways, you respond with patience, clarity, and warmth. You're not reacting out of depletion, but giving from a place of fullness. And this isn't just about maintaining physical health. It's about building resilience, the inner steadiness to meet life's demands without being consumed by them. It's the ability to show compassion without collapsing, to offer guidance without losing yourself. So how do we practice this kind of care without guilt? First, acknowledge that self-care is a responsibility, not a reward. It's not something to earn. It's something essential to maintain your integrity and effectiveness. Second, set boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers. They are structures that protect your energy. Knowing when to say no, when to rest, and when to step away is not weakness. It's wisdom. Third, shift your mindset. Self-care is not an escape. It's a discipline. It's your obligation not only to yourself, but to everyone who depends on you. Because the strongest version of you, clear-headed, centered, and balanced, will always have more to give than a burned-out version running on fumes. Now, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what's one small action I can take this week to prioritize my well-being? Maybe it's a daily walk. Maybe it's carving out quiet time to read. Maybe it's saying no to one unnecessary task. Whatever it is, remember, taking that step isn't selfish. It's strategic. It's how you ensure that when you show up for your family, your work, your life, you show up with strength and purpose. We just talked about self-care, not as an indulgence, but as a necessity rooted in strength and clarity. But even when we care for ourselves, there's another subtle way we often hold ourselves back, by struggling to accept compliments. It may seem small, but for many, when someone offers praise, the instinct is to deflect, downplay, or dismiss it entirely. Why is that? Often, it's because we see ourselves through a distorted lens. We become hyper-focused on our flaws and overlook our strengths. Some of us have even been taught, consciously or unconsciously, that recognizing our positive traits is somehow arrogant or boastful. But Stoicism teaches us a different view. True humility isn't about pretending to be less than we are. It's about seeing ourselves clearly, acknowledging both our imperfections and our virtues without exaggeration or false modesty. It means recognizing the strengths we've earned, the character we've built, and the value we offer, all without ego. When we accept a compliment with grace, we're not feeding our vanity. We're practicing self-awareness. We're acknowledging that our choices, our discipline, and our efforts have created something meaningful, something that others see and appreciate. Think about it. When someone gives you a sincere compliment, they're not just being kind, they're recognizing something real in you. To dismiss their words is, in a way, to reject not just their gesture, but the truth of your growth. So how do we get better at this? First, shift your perspective. See compliments not as praise to be earned or avoided, but as reflections of your values in action. Second, resist the habit of brushing them off. Don't minimize, don't deflect. Just take a breath and hear the message fully. Third, respond simply, with honesty and gratitude. A genuine thank you is enough. It's not self-important, it's respectful to both yourself and the other person. Gratitude, when sincere, grounds us. It reminds us of the virtues we live by: courage, discipline, temperance, justice. These aren't accidental. They're choices. They're patterns. And sometimes, a compliment is life's way of handing you a mirror. So next time someone acknowledges something admirable in you, pause. Ask yourself, what did I do to earn this? How does it reflect my growth, my values, or my discipline? This isn't about fishing for validation. It's about becoming someone who sees and honors the truth of who they're becoming. In the last section, we uncovered how fear of making decisions often stems from a deeper issue: a lack of trust in ourselves. Let's now explore how Stoicism brings clarity in the midst of that fear and hesitation. When you're stuck in indecision, it can feel like you're trapped in a fog, unable to move forward, afraid to take the wrong step. Stoicism cuts through that fog. It teaches that wise decision-making isn't about trying to predict the future. It's about making choices rooted in reason, guided by virtue, and aligned with our values. We don't control the outcomes of our decisions, but we do control how we make them. And when a decision is made with integrity, when it's aligned with our principles, it remains a right decision, even if the results aren't what we hoped for. Stoicism reminds us to accept those results as part of life's natural flow, not as punishments, but as part of the path. So why does decision-making scare us so much? Often, it's the fear of making a mistake, of choosing wrong, of feeling regret. But Stoicism reframes this entirely. Mistakes aren't enemies, they're teachers. Failures aren't endpoints, they're lessons. Every outcome, expected or not, carries the seed of growth. When we shift our mindset this way, we begin to release ourselves from the paralysis of fear and step into the freedom to act with confidence and purpose. But how exactly do we build that self-trust? First, turn to wisdom and reason. Before making a choice, pause and ask, does this align with my values? Am I acting with clarity and integrity? When the answer is yes, you can move forward with strength, even into uncertainty. Second, release the need to control everything. The future will always hold unknowns. But when you've made a thoughtful, principled decision, you've already done your part. The rest belongs to fate, and Stoicism encourages us to make peace with that. Third, reflect on every outcome. Whether the decision leads to triumph or challenge, ask, what worked? What didn't? What can I learn? Reflection sharpens your inner compass. Over time, this strengthens your trust in your ability to navigate whatever comes your way. Real confidence isn't about being right all the time. It's about knowing that even if you stumble, you'll rise, you'll adapt, you'll grow, because you're anchored not in certainty, but in principle. Previously, we uncovered how harsh self-criticism often disguises itself as discipline, when in reality, it can quietly erode our self-worth. Now let's go deeper into why we fall into this pattern, and how Stoicism helps us step out of it. Perfection is a mirage, a shimmering illusion that always stays just out of reach. And yet, so many of us chase it relentlessly. We set standards for ourselves that we'd never impose on anyone else. And when we inevitably fall short, we turn on ourselves with judgment and shame. But why do we do this? Often, it's because we've convinced ourselves that anything less than perfect means failure. We forget a simple truth. To be human is to stumble, to be flawed, and most importantly, to be capable of growth. The Stoic approach is clear. It doesn't excuse failure, but it reframes it. It teaches self-compassion, not as self-pity or softness, but as strength. From this perspective, treating yourself with understanding isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Think of how you would respond to a close friend who made a mistake. Would you tear them down? Or would you help them see the lesson, support their next step, and remind them of their worth? That same grace belongs to you. Stoicism teaches that setbacks aren't signs of inadequacy. They're invitations for reflection. When you slip, the Stoic response isn't to condemn yourself, but to ask, what can I learn? How can I use this to become better? This is the shift from perfection to progress, from punishing yourself for every mistake to appreciating every step forward, even the messy, uneven ones. Progress doesn't mean settling for less. On the contrary, it means striving for excellence with patience. It means showing up again and again, refining your thoughts, your choices, and your actions. Over time, that's what real growth looks like. The Stoic path isn't paved with flawless execution. It's shaped by honest effort, consistent improvement, and the ability to rise stronger after each fall. That is how wisdom is built, not in moments of perfection, but in moments of resilience. And yet, there's another habit that often works quietly against this mindset. One that steals your focus, clouds your vision, and makes you feel like you're never enough. Constantly comparing yourself to others. In the last section, we uncovered how comparison, especially in today's hyper-curated digital world, can silently rob us of peace. The Stoic path reminds us to shift our gaze inward, to focus on our own virtues, not someone else's highlight reel. Instead of constantly measuring ourselves against others, Stoicism invites us to realign with our own growth, our own progress, and the values we're cultivating each day. This philosophy doesn't call for detachment from the world, nor does it promote apathy. What it does offer is a radical shift from envy to admiration, from unhealthy comparison to meaningful inspiration. So, how do we put this mindset into practice? First, develop mindfulness. The next time you catch yourself comparing your journey to someone else's success, pause. Remind yourself that what you're seeing is only a fragment, a filtered moment, not the full story. No one posts their pain, their failures, or the doubts they battle behind closed doors. Second, refocus on what's within your control, your effort, your attitude, and your dedication to living by your values. That's what shapes your life, not how you rank against someone else, but how true you are to your path. Third, practice gratitude. Acknowledge the experiences, both good and difficult, that have helped you grow. Recognize the strength you've built through struggle. Gratitude helps shift your attention from what's missing to what's meaningful. It transforms lack into appreciation and comparison into confidence. This isn't about giving up on ambition. It's about building ambition on a solid foundation, not one rooted in insecurity, but in self-respect. The only person you need to outgrow is who you were yesterday. That's where true fulfillment lies, not in surpassing others, but in walking your own journey with intention, courage, and integrity. And yet, while many of us learn this lesson mentally, we still fall short in one critical way: by not investing in ourselves. Think about it. How often do we put off that course we wanted to take, that hobby we felt drawn to, or even the simple act of resting when we need it most? We say we don't have time, but often it's not really time that's missing. It's the belief that we are worth the effort. In the last section, we reflected on the quiet, often overlooked habit of neglecting ourselves, postponing growth, not because we lack time, but because we question our worth. That hesitation, more often than not, comes from something deeper: self-doubt. Sometimes we tell ourselves we're too busy, but other times, the real reason we delay investing in ourselves is the silent belief that we don't deserve the effort, that we're somehow not worth the energy, the time, or the attention. But Stoicism challenges that idea and gives us a clearer path forward. So how do you begin? First, shift your mindset. Don't see self-improvement as a luxury or an add-on. See it as a non-negotiable part of a meaningful life. To live with purpose is to grow intentionally. Second, begin with small, consistent steps. Personal development doesn't require massive change overnight. It could be as simple as reading a few pages of a meaningful book, setting aside 10 minutes of quiet reflection, or returning to a hobby that fuels your spirit. Third, reflect regularly. Pause to assess your strengths, your areas for growth, and whether your actions are still aligned with your deeper values. Ask yourself, am I moving in a direction that feels true to me? And finally, embrace the idea of lifelong learning. Stoicism reminds us that wisdom isn't a place we arrive at. It's a journey, one that unfolds with each thoughtful decision, each self-aware moment, and each act of discipline. Personal growth, then, is not a burden, it's a gift. A powerful opportunity to uncover, refine, and fully express the virtues that live within you. To invest in yourself is to respect your potential, and that's the true foundation of a life well lived. But there's another force that often sabotages that journey, one that keeps us looking outward when we should be grounded inward. The need for external validation. Why do we so often chase approval from others? At its core, this desire often stems from insecurity, a fear that who we are on our own isn't enough. We live in a world that constantly tells us what to want, who to become, and how to measure our worth. In that noise, it's easy to forget ourselves. But Stoicism offers a radical alternative. Turn inward. True peace doesn't come from applause. It comes from living in integrity, from knowing you acted in alignment with your values, even if no one else noticed. So how do we break free from the trap of external validation? First, develop self-awareness. When chasing a goal, ask yourself, Am I doing this because it matters to me? Or because I want to be seen a certain way? Second, cultivate self-sufficiency. This doesn't mean cutting people off or living in isolation. It means finding stability within, a kind of internal anchor that isn't swayed by outside opinion. Third, redefine what success truly means. According to Stoicism, success is not measured by titles, praise, or possessions. It's defined by the degree to which we embody our core values like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It's about becoming the kind of person you're proud of, whether or not the world is watching. Because from the Stoic perspective, the truest form of success isn't about what you collect, it's about who you become. And once you no longer need the world's approval, something powerful happens. You reclaim your freedom. So what happens when we finally let go of chasing applause and start building from within? In the previous section, we explored the trap of seeking approval from others and how true freedom begins when you stop measuring your worth by external praise. But there's another form of quiet self-abandonment that many endure daily: staying in negative environments. Imagine walking through a dense, shadowy forest. The air is thick, heavy. Every step forward feels uncertain. That's what it feels like to stay in an environment that drains you, whether it's a toxic workplace, a damaging relationship, or a social circle that constantly makes you question your worth. Why do we stay in places that dim our light? Often, it's not the environment itself that keeps us trapped, but a deeper belief, the quiet, internal voice that says, maybe this is all I deserve. That's where Stoicism offers its power, not just to recognize the toxicity around us, but to challenge the lies we tell ourselves about what we're worth. What does Stoicism teach us about these environments? The Stoics understood that our surroundings affect our ability to live with clarity, virtue, and peace. But they also emphasize something even more important: personal responsibility. We are not helpless. We have the power and the obligation to shape our environments with wisdom and intention. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our peace doesn't depend on external conditions. It comes from how we respond to them. But that doesn't mean tolerating everything. It means being deeply aware of what aligns with your values and what doesn't. So, why do so many stay stuck? Some fear change. Others cling to the familiar. Many doubt their ability to find something better, or believe they aren't worthy of it. Stoicism confronts all of this. It urges us to remember our inherent value, our freedom to choose, and our ability to act in alignment with virtue, even when the world around us feels unstable. So, how can we begin to shift our environment, or our relationship with it? First, build your inner strength. Marcus Aurelius called this your inner citadel, a steady, grounded place within yourself that remains untouched, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. Second, live in harmony with nature, which means living in accordance with your truest self. If the situation around you is toxic and it contradicts your values, have the courage to recognize your right to step away. Third, set clear boundaries. If you can't leave immediately, define what you will no longer tolerate. Boundaries are not walls, they're declarations of self-respect. And fourth, seek out what lifts you. Whether it's people, habits, or environments, choose influences that strengthen your well-being and nourish your growth. You deserve to live in alignment with your values, not in silent endurance of what wears you down. Because remaining in a negative environment when you know it's harming you is not endurance. It's quiet surrender. And this brings us to one final shift, one of the most powerful. Life-changing Stoic insights. Learning to reclaim your personal power by choosing intention over reaction. In the last section, we uncovered the quiet cost of staying in negative environments, how it can slowly convince us to shrink, settle, or stay silent. But just as dangerous as staying stuck is never even starting, especially when fear is the thing holding you back. That brings us to the next lesson. Letting fear stop you from pursuing your dreams. Why does fear have such a powerful grip on us? Most of the time, it's because we're focused on what we might lose, not what we might gain. Our minds are wired to protect us, so they paint vivid, intimidating pictures. What if I fail? What if I waste my time? What if people laugh at me, or I disappoint myself? These questions don't just slow us down, they often stop us before we've even taken the first step. But Stoicism doesn't deny fear, it faces it head on and reframes it. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" it encourages us to ask, "What might I gain?" Because when you put fear next to the possibility of growth, purpose, and fulfillment, fear starts to shrink. So how do the Stoics deal with fear? First, they practice premeditatio malorum, a powerful Stoic technique that means premeditation of evils. This isn't about becoming negative, it's about preparing the mind. You imagine the worst-case scenario not to scare yourself, but to weaken its control over you. Once you confront the possibility and realize you could endure it, fear begins to lose its sharpness. Second, they embrace amor fati, the love of fate. This doesn't mean blind acceptance. It means greeting everything that happens, success, failure, joy, disappointment, as part of the fabric of life. You stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. Every step, whether forward or backward, becomes part of your evolution. Third, align your dreams with your values. Stoicism teaches that your worth isn't tied to how far you go or how much you achieve. It's measured by the integrity, courage, and effort you bring to the journey. A life lived in accordance with your principles is already a meaningful life, regardless of how the outcome looks from the outside. Because in the end, fear doesn't just block success, it blocks experience. It keeps you from discovering your strength, testing your limits, and embracing life fully. You don't need guarantees, you need direction. And the only way to find out what you're truly capable of is to move forward in spite of fear. And yet, even when we push forward, many still fall into one final trap, forgetting where true worth comes from. In the previous section, we faced one of the most common traps, chasing dreams while forgetting that our true worth doesn't come from results, but from how we live. And now, it's time to reinforce that truth even further, because your worth has never been dependent on anything outside of you. Stoicism teaches that contentment, real, lasting contentment, doesn't come from fulfilling every desire or winning the world's approval. It comes from freeing yourself from those expectations altogether, from recognizing that you are already enough, simply by how you choose to live. Your value is not measured by your job title, your bank account, or how many people admire you. It's measured by your commitment to virtue, to wisdom, courage, justice, and integrity. That is what forms the core of a person. That is what defines you. So how do you cultivate this unshakable sense of self-worth? First, practice self-reflection. Take time to look inward. Acknowledge your resilience, your effort, and the virtues you've upheld, even when no one was watching. The world may not always recognize it, but you can. Second, detach from external validation. The opinions of others, however loud, do not define you. Their applause or criticism doesn't alter your value. And neither do momentary failures or fleeting achievements. Third, live in alignment with your values. When your actions reflect who you truly are, when you show up with honesty, courage, kindness, your confidence becomes something deep and immovable. Not because the world approved, but because you approved of your own choices. When you anchor yourself in what matters most, your sense of worth becomes stable, constant. It no longer rises and falls with circumstance. And in that steadiness, you find a quiet power. The power to stop chasing validation and start living with real peace. But even when we know this, another shadow can creep in, one that whispers, a cruel lie. I don't deserve to be happy. Let's now explore why so many people carry this hidden belief, and how Stoicism shows us a better way. In the last part, we uncovered a painful truth many carry silently, the belief that happiness must be earned. But Stoicism reminds us, joy is not a reward, it is a way of living. Happiness isn't found in chasing perfection, recognition, or outcomes. It's found in the small, intentional moments, in living by your values, embracing what you already have, and being fully present with life as it unfolds. So how do we begin to live this way? First, ground yourself in what truly matters. Let go of the illusion that happiness lies in achievements. Instead, build a life around meaning, around courage, integrity, and presence. Second, practice gratitude. The more you focus on what's already good in your life, your breath, your relationships, your quiet efforts, the more joy begins to naturally rise. Gratitude doesn't ignore the struggle. It gives it perspective. Third, build real, meaningful connections. We were not meant to walk this path alone. When you give and receive support, when you open your heart to others and allow them into your world, you're not just sharing happiness, you're affirming that you deserve it. Final words. As you carry these Stoic lessons forward, remember this: you are not waiting for life to give you meaning. You are the one shaping it. You are the architect of your destiny, the sculptor of your fulfillment, the keeper of your own worth. The road ahead won't always be easy, but it will always be yours to walk. So go forward. Live with courage, love without fear, and find joy not in what the world gives you, but in what you choose to give yourself and others. If this message speaks to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wisdom. Live the wisdom. Be the example. Until next time, stay grounded, stay wise, and never stop growing.